This is my farm.
Don't come out here and tell me what I need.
I need solutions that work and market options that are worth my time.
Small town support that sees the bigger picture.
A global network that empowers us. A co-op that's there for us every day.
Thank you for joining us this week for Washington Week in Review. I'm Hannah Pagel, joined with Phil Brasher. And Phil, what a week it's been. Honestly, there's just been a lot of topics going on with trade, and so where to even begin?
Well, we've been waiting for this for a long time. Number one, the signing of the Phase 1 trade agreement with China, and finally a look at the details. And then to wrap up the week, the Senate giving final congressional approval to the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, NAFTA 2.0. We're done.
Yes, thank goodness. But let's get kind of more into the details with the Phase 1 China signing. So it was signed into, what do you call it? Signed into...
Well, the two countries agreed to a series of commitments, and I think for the U.S. side, it was the details of what the Chinese have agreed to.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Words are hard sometimes. So China has agreed to buy $80 billion over the next 2 years of agricultural goods.
Right. And they talk about $40 billion a year. It actually is slightly adjusted. If you drill down into the text, and this is what was so important about getting the text on Wednesday, is that right there on page 55 of the text, it says China is committing to $36.5 billion in purchases. That's 12.5 over 24 billion, which is what they were doing in 2017 before the trade war started. Anyway, $36.5 billion this year in 2020, and then the rest, $43.5 billion in 2021. That's what they have committed to in terms of buying U.S. farm commodities.
Okay. And it seems as if the tariffs will still remain in place, I think Trump said, until a Phase 2 agreement comes through. Is that correct?
Right. We've been not been real clear on how long the tariffs would stay in place, but he believes that he needs to keep those for negotiating leverage to get additional concessions out of the Chinese. So that means, for example, beef, China's going to keep its tariffs on, presumably. Beef from the U.S. going into China is going to still be subject to a 47% in total tariffs. So it's still significant that these tariffs are staying on, but there's a whole lot of other barriers that China has, non-tariff barriers, that will be coming down as part of this Phase 1 agreement.
And it seems as if some of those barriers are actually going to help the beef industry with lowering some of the, what is it called?
Right. Well, great point. There are a number of barriers that the U.S. beef industry has been facing into China. They only sold about $70 million worth of beef, a very small amount, through the first 11 months of the year in 2019. And they think they can now sell get that market up to $4 billion or more with the reduction of these barriers. Has to do with beef hormones. There's elimination of relaxation of a traceability requirement that the beef U.S. industry and the producers were very frustrated with. That's going to be gone. Several other changes, and they think they've got huge opportunity there.
Okay. Now, let's talk the other side of the trade here in Washington. So USMCA did pass in the Senate today. What was the vote?
89 to 10.
89 to 10.
And if you do the math, it's roughly the same huge margin, about 90%, that the agreement, or actually it's the implementing bill for the agreement, that passed the House back in December. So huge bipartisan majority, which very unusual when it comes to trade policy.
So that will now be sent on to President Trump. But then what else does the USMCA still have to go through in order for it to be finally done and complete?
Right. Well, we expect the president to sign it into law, sign this implementing bill into law next week. He indicated at the signing ceremony for the China Phase 1 deal that he was going to have another big ceremony. I didn't say this, but that would come probably right in the middle of the Senate impeachment trial, but that's likely next week. The other big step that you allude to is that Canada still has to ratify the agreement. We don't expect any problem with that, but they've been waiting for the U.S. to act, and at some point, presumably in the near future, Canadian Parliament will follow suit.
Okay. And also speaking about President Donald Trump, he is going to be doing some traveling at the end of this week. And Phil, you're also going to be doing some traveling too.
Yep, the American Farm Bureau Federation, the nation's largest farm organization, holds its annual convention this time in Austin, Texas. And the president announced this week that he will be there on Sunday.
Okay. And what do you think are going to be some high talking points for President when he's down at American Farm Bureau?
Well, I'm sure we're going to hear more about China. This is going to be something of a victory lap with what we've just been talking about, the Phase 1 deal with China, final congressional approval of USMCA. I bet, and there's a lot of anticipation around Washington, that he also may be talking about a new Waters of the U.S. rule. That's the rule that defines federal jurisdiction over streams and rivers and wetlands under the Clean Water Act. The Farm Bureau and other farm groups have been pressuring for years for the administration to get rid of a rule that the Obama administration had put in force. That's been done. That was repealed formally, but now they've got to get a new rule in place, and we'll probably hear about that on Sunday. And then the administrator of the EPA, Andrew Wheeler, will be at the Farm Bureau meeting on Monday.
Okay. And before we wrap up, there's one other thing that we want to bring to you guys' attention, but that is an interview that one of our writers, Bill Thompson, brought to attention. He had kind of an exclusive talk with Sonny Perdue?
Well, he got a chance to pull aside Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue right before the signing ceremony for the China trade deal on Wednesday. Bill was able to get him to come over while he was in between some TV interviews, and the secretary gave him some news, and one of those bits, not quite related to the China deal, but sort of, was that they are moving ahead with the third tranche of payments under the 2019 Market Facilitation Program. Secretary Perdue told Bill not to expect a 2020 version of MFP. Now, 2020 is an election year. We'll see if they actually go forward with that and don't do another MFP, but the Secretary Perdue is telling farmers, don't expect one.
Okay, well that's something that we can keep our eyes on. So for you listeners out there, please go to Agri-Pulse.com to learn more about the upcoming news. And Phil, is there anything else we need to discuss today?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot. We're going to be digesting this China deal for quite a while. So.
All right, well, with that, I'm Hannah Pagel, and this is Phil Brasher. Have a good one.